The life of Steve Jobs was undeniably unique. Having been a fan of his since I was young, I have followed his career with interest since his return to Apple in 1997. What strikes me as worth your time are certain comparisons that can be made between his life and major issues in America. I travel a lot and meet many people spanning large differences in age and career. One common complaint I hear is how different life would be if we were born to a better position in society. More money growing up, better schools, good internships, etc. In fact, even Joanne Simpson, the mother of Steve Jobs, during the adoption of her son, requested that he be placed with a well-educated family. Simpson initially balked when the adoptive family turned out to be high school dropout Paul Jobs and his wife Clara, who never finished college. According to Mr. Jobs, his birth mother only allowed his adoption when the Jobs family promised to send him to college. What actually happened is in complete contrast to both Ms. Simpson's wishes and the Jobs promise. He did begin attending Reed College, an expensive liberal arts institute in Oregon which could be considered a better school, but as Mr. Jobs told Stanford University students in a now famous 2005 commencement speech, he dropped out after one semester. All of his working class parents' savings were being spent on his college tuition, and he couldn't see the value in it. In fact, he regarded the educational system with disdain, being quoted as saying it came close to really beating any curiosity out of him. Mr. Jobs' example exposes both a conceptual and actual flaw in the mindset of America. First, the concept that a college education is the best way to educate the majority of Americans, in fact a good education, or even capable of making our youth into tomorrow's leaders. I'm not saying that a classroom education is the worst use of time for many, but it may be harming us in ways we aren't willing to admit as we take on enormous amounts of debt at a time in most people's lives when they may not know exactly what they want to do in life. Our current economic crisis is not fueled by a lack of spending, but rather by overburdening of debt. In the words of my brother, some professions are worth student debt in the sense that after schooling your job can more than repay student loans. If you do know what you want to do and a college education would prepare you for doing that, by all means go to school and enjoy it. Even the random generals which are there just in case you change your mind later. If you don't, why not use that time working at any trade that interests you and take classes that don't put you into debt, be they at the community college or wherever. In the meantime, learning more about life and experiencing the lessons that reality teaches, the kind that stick with us much longer than any lecture. The actual flaw in America's mindset is the idea that the education system in general should be responsible for any actual education. Let me provide my definition of actual education. Any knowledge that gives the recipient good use throughout their lives. I argue that parents are mainly responsible for this type of education. In Mr. Jobs' case, he considered it luck that his adoptive father, a machinist, moved the family to Mountain View when Steve was a boy and gave him a workbench in their garage. In the words of Mr. Jobs, my father Paul was a pretty remarkable man. He was kind of a genius with his hands who spent a lot of time with me, teaching me how to build things, how to take things apart, put them back together. We need to stop blaming the government and take more responsibility as parents, but also as youth. If your parents don't teach you, read a book. Build something. Another comparison worth noting is how Mr. Jobs reacted to being fired from Apple, as he said to Stanford students in that same address. I didn't see it then, but getting fired from Apple was the best thing that could have ever happened to me, because it forced him to learn new skills. If you're unemployed, the best thing you could do is to try new things. You may or may not start new companies like Mr. Jobs did several times. If you do, remember that he started Apple and left it without major success. Remember he started Next and it never gained a major success. Despite this, he was learning all the time from everything he tried and everything around him. Even this failure, Next, went on to be a foundational part of his return to Apple as it helped shape their new operating system. If you don't start a company, learn any time and anywhere you can. If you can't find part-time work to learn from, volunteer. Be as active as possible to increase what you know. The last point of comparison I noted has to do with some very contentious methods in the business world, specifically that of a CEO who makes large amounts of money in salary and bonuses, perhaps while not doing the company any good, or in the long run even causing their failure, or they fire that CEO in order to keep from failing. On the way out, they're given even more money. Meanwhile, to keep afloat, the company is or has been forced to downsize, let go, fire many employees, all of which seems financially irresponsible. Maybe Jobs' example could help. He sure made a lot of money at Apple. However, Steve Jobs had a salary of $1 a year. $1. Yet he did get rich. In fact, many executives who work at Apple make a lot of money. However, in order for them to make a lot, the company had to make money so that their stock options would be worth something. Come on, corporate America, we all like money. Let's just make sure when we give out so much of it that the whole company benefits and not just those who are in the top position. Yes, the person at the top often deserves more, but make him or her earn it just like the rest of us. Equality does not mean we all get the same, but we should all get what we earn.